single day.
I look at the roads tonight. With the holiday season, more people are going to be partying and traveling. Law enforcement officers from across the state are working extra patrols until the new year. They are, of course, looking for people who are driving drunk, also people that are not wearing seatbelts. Last year, the Utah Highway Patrol arrested 29 DUI drivers. That's when the new .05 alcohol limit went into effect. In Utah, you can get a DUI without actually driving a car. It's true. Kelly Vaughn joins us now to explain. It's kind of complicated.
Yes, there's a lot to think about. In Utah, you could get a DUI just by standing near your car with your car keys. According to the law, you can't drive, operate, or be in actual physical control of a car while under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Now, there are a lot of factors that go into determining what exactly that means, and some of them are pretty surprising.
Actual physical control isn't defined. It's whatever the cop says it is.
David Rosenblum is a DUI defense attorney. He says these laws are intended to prevent an intoxicated person from causing harm by stopping them before they drive. But there can be broad interpretations of this law.
You don't have to be sitting in the car to get a DUI in Utah. You could be camping. If the keys are in the car and you're listening to the radio, that's a DUI.
Courts have to look at the whole circumstance to determine if someone was in actual physical control, like where the person is in the car, if the steering wheel or controls are being touched, if the person is awake or asleep, or if the keys are in hand.
If you go out to your car, like one of my clients, at night to get your cigarettes, and you open that car door and you have alcohol in your breath, that's a DUI.
He says if you're drinking, the best thing to do is to use a ride-sharing service, but even that can have its problems.
If you call an Uber, like one of my clients, the Uber arrives and you go to lock your car up. The minute you touch that car, cop arrested her for DUI.
He also says that in Utah, you can get a DUI in any vehicle, like a boat or even a bicycle. Now, the consequences of a DUI while you're not driving are just as severe as if you were caught behind the wheel on the roads. A first-time DUI has a maximum penalty of up to 180 days in jail, as well as tons of court fees and fines, and the consequences just go up with each subsequent DUI. Reporting from downtown Salt Lake, Kelly Vaughn, 2 News.
All right, interesting, Kelly. Thanks.
It kind of feels
Cops give DUIs to people not even driving a car, including people using Uber. Matt Agarist, December 28, 2019. Cops are apparently so hell-bent on enforcing DUI laws that some of them are reportedly arresting folks for DUI even if they are not driving. In Utah, there have been multiple instances of cops issuing DUIs to people who aren't driving, and they are proud of it. This insanity is the result of police officers' interpretation of an ill-defined law. As KUTV reports, in Utah, a person cannot drive, operate, or be in actual physical control of a car while under the influence or alcohol or drugs. There are a lot of factors that are looked at to determine if a person is in actual physical control of the car. Actual physical control isn't defined, it's whatever the cop says it is, said David Rosenblum, a DUI defense attorney. This broad interpretation has led to people getting a DUI and they never got behind the wheel. Most DUI laws are in place to prevent folks from driving drunk and causing harm, but leaving cops in charge of such a broad paintbrush in Utah is a problem. You don't have to be sitting in your car to get a DUI in Utah. You could be camping. If the keys are in the car and you're listening to the radio, that's a DUI, he said. Rosenblum knows this because he has represented people arrested for that very reason. Apparently cops will stake out campsites and wait for people grab something from their car or listen to the radio and then sweep in to arrest them. This is not keeping anyone safe. It is predatory and it is wrong. Nevertheless, it happens at an increasing rate. As KUTV reports, courts must look at the whole circumstance to determine if someone was in actual physical control, like where the person is in the car, if the steering wheel or controls are being touched, if the person is awake or asleep, or if the keys are in hand. If you go out to your car, like one of my clients, at night to get your cigarettes, and you open that car door and you have alcohol on your breath, that's a DUI, said Rosenblum. Rideshare companies have played a major role in the reduction of driving under the influence. One would think that police officers would praise a bar patron for choosing to get an Uber instead of driving drunk. However, in at least one instance, one would be wrong. If you call an Uber, like one of my clients, the Uber arrives and you go to lock your car up. The minute you touch that car, the cop arrested her for DUI, Rosenblum said. What kind of cop gives a person a DUI for choosing to take a ride share and merely locking up their car? That's not public service. It's extortion and kidnapping. However, it seems to be par for the course. In British Columbia, cops are even giving passengers who have a designated driver DUIs. When a BC mother went to a Christmas party earlier this month, she admittedly had too much to drink, so she called her 22-year-old son to pick her up. When they went through a DUI checkpoint, the mother told police she'd been drinking. She was pulled from the car, given a sobriety test, and failed it. She failed that, and she was given a 90-day immediate roadside prohibition and the family vehicle was impounded for 30 days, the woman's lawyer Sarah Lehman said. This is ridiculous, but it gets worse. In many states, you don't even have to be impaired to get a DUI. As TFTP has reported on numerous occasions, motorists in police state USA are snagging DUI charges for being stone cold sober. Roadside extortionists with badges calling themselves experts are the main culprits, according to several sources. The problem has gotten so out of hand that mainstream news media outlets are catching up on the sanctioned extortion and bravely reporting on the phenomena. One Phoenix cop in particular, Officer David Morris, has made 56 DUI arrests since April 2018. In a state which annually doles out over 21,000 DUIs per year, Morris' numbers are not all that astounding. It's just that several of his alleged perpetrators whom he arrested for DUI were absolutely, completely, 100%, sober. Tasha McConnell said her DUI was traumatizing. She said she was pulled over for failing to come to a complete stop at a stop sign, but that Morris wanted to dig into her drug history, immediately asking her what drugs she was taking, prescription or otherwise. He told her her eye tremors were giving it away and his supposed DRE experience made an expert at determining impairment. McConnell told the press. It was quite embarrassing. I knew I did nothing wrong, they just kept sticking to asking me what drugs I was on. He asked me if I was on marijuana. He insisted I was on harder drugs. Despite passing a breathalyzer and a blood test showing she had absolutely nothing in her system, McConnell was still charged with DUI. This is what preventing drunk driving looks like in the land of the free. Spread the love.
And then he asked her to exit.
Good evening. How are we?
A Nelson family was stopped at a counterattack check much like this one on December 13th. The parents had been at a holiday party and had their 22-year-old son pick them up. He was sober, but the officer then asked his mom in the passenger seat if she'd been drinking.
She admitted, of course, that she had, and then he asked her to exit the vehicle and submit to a roadside breath test. Of course, she failed that, and then she was issued with a 90-day driving prohibition, and the family vehicle was immediately impounded for a period of 30 days.
The issues, according to the ticket, are the driver has an L or learner's license, meaning there must be a qualified supervisor in the vehicle, and the car involved, a Pontiac Vibe, is small enough the passenger could grab the steering wheel or interfere with driving. A far reach, according to Lehman.
The officer could have issued a violation ticket for driving contrary to a restriction of the person's license. I think that it's troubling, it's disturbing, and it's certainly not the way that we want to see our impaired driving laws being enforced here in this province.
Those who routinely drive impaired people this time of year admit it's an unusual case, but say there are ways to reduce the risk.
You want to make sure that there's as few distractions as possible in general, right? Whether it's Operation Red Nose or a commercial designated driving service or just a friend driving your car. And so if the person is quite intoxicated, it's always a good idea to have them in the back seat.
As for the Nelson family, a reprieve from RCMP. While they recommend anyone overseeing a driver in the graduated license program be sober, they confirm a decision was made to recommend the cancellation of the 90-day IRP issued to the passenger. The vehicle impound is also canceled. It was a potentially expensive and inconvenient lesson for a family who thought they were making a responsible choice. Jill Bennett, Global News.
Law enforcement officers are reminding people to avoid drinking and driving, especially this holiday season.
And they gathered at the state capitol today talking about how they'll be out in full force throughout the new year. Fox 10's Jennifer Aw joins us now live in the newsroom with details on that for us. Jennifer.
Well, Mark, Christina, officials say the holiday season this time of year is usually one of the most dangerous times to be on the roadways. In fact, during this past Thanksgiving holiday, from Wednesday through Saturday, 420 people were arrested for DUI. And that's up from 377 last year. Police departments, DPS, and sheriff's offices coming together after posting this firestorm of social media messages to not drink and drive.
Those vehicles are weapons, and the irresponsible people that choose to drive them compromise the safety of all Arizonans.
So far this year, law enforcement officers in Arizona have made a combined 1.1 million traffic stops. 21,000 of them were arrested for a DUI.
What we want people to be able to do is to celebrate, enjoy their families, holidays, get-togethers, company parties, but to do so responsibly.
Just this past week, an impaired driver going the wrong way on I-40 went head-on with a trooper.
The lawyers say I can't talk about her blood alcohol concentration, but I'll tell you that she's more than 4 times the presumptive level.
DPS Colonel Frank Milstead expressing his frustration.
It's unbelievable that somebody in that condition would get in a car and drive with a 2-year-old baby in the car.
As part of the holiday statewide DUI enforcement campaign, police agencies across Arizona will amp up saturation patrols and weekend sobriety checkpoints through New Year's.
How critically important it is for us to really make an impact in DUI enforcement and wrong-way drivers. A
first-time offender in Arizona will be punished with jail time, anywhere from 1 day to 6 months, depending on the case, plus a $250 base fine, which can go up to $2,500 in total fees. Now, the holiday season as a whole tends to be dangerous, with New Year's Eve being the most dangerous day. And so officials have partnered up with Valley Metro buses and the light rail to offer free rides on New Year's Eve, starting at 7 p.m. Uber will also be offering discounts that day, and so officials say you have no reason to drink and drive. Live in the newsroom, I'm Jennifer Ah, Fox 10 News.
Drunk driving arrests are down sharply after decades of aggressive enforcement, while drugged driving arrests are actually climbing. Georgia now has more than 250 officers with special drug recognition expert training, but 11 Alive Chief Investigator Brendan Keefe discovered some drivers are getting arrested for driving stoned, even when their drug test came back clean.
You hadn't had anything to drink tonight?
Not tonight, no.
Not tonight? Okay. Well, one of the things that we do is we ask people to blow through this thing, okay?
Caitlin Ebner crossed the line and got pulled over on her way home from work.
Blow real hard and blow until I ask you to stop. Keep going, keep going, keep going. You can stop.
No, she wasn't drinking. All tests for alcohol came up empty.
When's the last time you smoked marijuana?
Oh, I don't do that. I can give you the drug test right now.
You don't smoke marijuana?
I do not,
okay.
No.
All right. Well, you're showing me indicators that you have been smoking marijuana, okay?
I didn't realize that you could get arrested for something that you didn't do until it happened to me.
Right, watch your wrist for me. I don't want to pinch you.
For marijuana?
No, ma'am, not possession unless I find it in your car. I believe that you're impaired by the marijuana that you've smoked.
Before you felt those handcuffs closing over your wrist, did you understand just how serious this was?
I didn't understand. As soon as I took that breathalyzer, I thought I was going home.
This time you're being taken into custody, okay, for DUI drugs.
The waitress spent the night in jail and had her alcohol server's permit revoked because of the DUI arrest. After 4 months, prosecutors dismissed all charges because her blood test came back completely clean.
You had to spend months and thousands of dollars proving your innocence.
I did.
When's the last time you smoked weed? I don't smoke weed. You don't smoke weed? No, not at all.
The same thing happened to this college student 2 weeks earlier on Good Friday.
Well, I believe you have, okay? I need to borrow your arm real quick, okay? I believe that's why you were failing to maintain your lane and driving halfway on the ramp when I was behind you.
Hold on one second. Hold on, sir.
Give me just 1 second. Give me just 1 second.
You're arresting me
That's correct.
I didn't understand. I'm like, why are you arresting me? Like, what did I do? He said DUI of a substance. I'm like, what?
You arrested me because you think I smoke marijuana?
I believe that you're impaired by cannabis. Yes, ma'am.
Sir, I don't smoke weed. Is there a way you can test me right now?
Princess Umbamara was also jailed and fought the DUI drug charges for half of 2016.
So the blood test comes back, they toss the case.
I remember my lawyer trying to talk about a deal. I was like, what? I'm not taking a deal. I didn't do anything. I want, like, my life back. Can you reverse time?
Can you stick your tongue out real big?
Months later, it happened a third time to this Auburn student.
You're giving me indicators that you have consumed marijuana, so you're being placed under arrest for DUI, okay?
The prosecutor filed this dismissal of the student's DUI drug charge 5 months later. Defendant performed well on field sobriety evaluations, and blood and urine were negative. 3 DUI drug arrests, 3 tox screens negative for marijuana, 1 police officer. Cobb County's T.T. Carroll. Documents show Carroll is one of the highest rated and best trained officers on Cobb County's legendary DUI task force.
Well, you're showing me numerous indicators.
He's a certified drug recognition expert.
Well, I don't believe you're telling me the truth, okay? I don't believe, because I'm seeing some involuntary indicators that you've consumed marijuana.
One of 250 Georgia officers who've gone through this intensive month-long training. A drug recognition evaluation involves a dozen observations that allow officers not only to pronounce a driver is on drugs, but to identify which of 7 types of drugs are in their system.
Marijuana, how do you look at somebody and say marijuana?
There are involuntary responses of the body that we can observe that would suggest impairment of marijuana.
He did these techniques that he was taught, and he determined you were on something you weren't on.
Yeah, unfortunate for me.
Because he's ingested marijuana. That's what my training suggests.
Officer Carroll relies on his drug recognition expert training, but in these 3 dismissed cases, he didn't do the full DRE evaluation after the arrest. The standard protocol requires all 12 steps to be complete, yet any police officer can make a DUI drug arrest on fewer observations.
If I establish probable cause, and I believe that based on my training, that's why I put the handcuffs on you. Several indicators.
Okay, so when I do a drug test, I'll be free to go, correct?
You're going to jail, ma'am, okay? I don't have a magical drug test that I can give you right now.
But he just did the magic drug test that resulted in your arrest.
They're ruining innocent people's lives.
Caitlin Ebner filed an internal affairs complaint against Officer Carroll. Cobb County investigators exonerated the officer and doubted Caitlin's innocence, insisting the marijuana could have already metabolized out of the blood.
They said, yeah, we see this happen all the time. The test results come back wrong.
So the test results were wrong?
Yeah, that's what they said, that the test results were wrong. And also, if I had a urine test, that it would have came back positive for drugs.
But Caitlin got her own urine test the same week as her arrest. The urine test was also negative for marijuana or other drugs.
This training is so powerful that they believe they can detect drugs that a blood test will not detect.
It's extremely surprising. That's my life that they're playing with.
Cobb County Police Department.
Last week, Cobb County's DUI task force was awarded a trophy by Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
1,696 DUI arrests.
And Officer Carroll was given a silver medal for 90 DUI arrests in 2016.
He put dozens of actual convicted drunk drivers behind bars last year. But if he got 3 people who were innocent behind bars, having to defend themselves, how does that balance out for you?
It's something I have to carry for the rest of my life.
Now, commanders wouldn't let Officer Carroll talk with us, but the department stands behind these arrests, and also the department says that the GBI Crime Lab often returns results as negative even when there is a trace amount of marijuana in the blood. Cobb County Police also say that any officer trained with this special drug recognition expert training is better and more reliable than a scientific blood or urine test, and that we found surprising.
It is surprising, all of it, astounding. My jaw is open, Brendan. I think it is worth repeating here that officers don't get it wrong all the time, right? You did say that
usually,
at the end.
Vast majority of the time they get it right, and they're getting impaired people off the streets. We're talking about people who could kill someone in your family or you and I on the road. I mean, I've done dozens of ride-alongs over my career with these amazing officers who are truly heroes. But this drug recognition thing is a problem only because there's no immediate scientific test like you have for alcohol. They can't immediately take you to the department, test your blood and urine, let you go. It takes weeks or months, and that's why they're relying on this training.
250 officers got this special training. Where besides Cobb County are these officers?
All over the state of Georgia. Now, just because an officer pulls you over who doesn't have drug recognition expert training, they can call a drug recognition expert in their department. And that happens often. In fact, a number of these arrests, Officer Carroll wasn't even the one who stopped them originally. But then they use this training. The question is there a problem with the training, or is there a problem with the way it's being implemented in the field and improvised? Or is there, as Cobb County insists, something wrong with the way the crime lab is testing it?
The highest number of these officers?
Definitely the Georgia State Patrol. Yeah.
All right, Brendan Keefe, thank you very much.
Hey, Sheriff County, this is Sheriff County Cop Watch. I am using any video here under fair use. If you have criticism, reporting, teaching, etc., and please donate. I do not make money from YouTube, and there are different ways to donate in the video links. Thanks.